You clicked on this video for a reason. Maybe you saw the thumbnail and thought, 1 egg every morning to stop blood sugar spikes. That sounds too simple. And that is exactly why most people with diabetes will never try it. But here is what I need you to understand right now. The people managing their blood sugar best, people your age with your same diagnosis, are not doing something complicated. They are doing something consistent. And for thousands of them, it started with one change at breakfast. If you are over 65 and your doctor told you to watch what you eat, but never told you exactly what to eat first thing in the morning, this video is for you. Because what I am about to share is not a diet plan. It is not a supplement you have to order online. It is something you probably already have in your refrigerator, and the science behind why it works, especially for people your age with type 2 diabetes or pre-diabetes, is something most doctors simply do not have time to explain. So stay with me, because by the end of the next few minutes, you are going to understand your blood sugar in a completely new way. And you are going to know exactly what to do tomorrow morning before you even make your coffee. Here is a question for you. When you wake up in the morning before you eat anything, do you feel that familiar heaviness? That fog in your head that takes a while to lift? Maybe your blood sugar is already high before breakfast, and you have not eaten a single thing yet. Sound familiar? If it does, keep watching, because what I am about to explain is the reason that happens, and more importantly, the simple morning habit that can change it. Let me start with something that surprises most people when they first hear it. The biggest blood sugar spikes of the day are not always caused by lunch or dinner. For many people over 65 living with diabetes, the spike happens first thing in the morning, sometimes even before the first bite of food. This is called the dawn phenomenon. Between roughly 4 and 8 in the morning, your body releases a surge of hormones. Cortisol, glucagon, growth hormone, to prepare you to wake up and move. In a healthy metabolism, insulin rises to match it. But in a diabetic or pre-diabetic body, that insulin response is blunted. So blood sugar climbs on its own with no food involved at all. What this means is that your first meal of the day is not just breakfast. It is a metabolic event. And what you eat in that window does not just feed you. It either stabilizes that morning spike or makes it dramatically worse. Most people with diabetes are told to avoid carbohydrates. That is good advice as far as it goes. But what most people are never told is that the specific protein and fat they eat first thing in the morning has a powerful effect on how their blood sugar behaves for the next 4 to 6 hours. This is not a minor detail. This is the difference between a morning where your numbers stay steady and a morning where you are chasing spikes until noon. And this is where the egg comes in. I want to tell you about Margaret, 71 years old, diagnosed with type 2 diabetes 6 years ago. She had been managing reasonably, taking her medication, trying to eat less sugar. But every morning her fasting blood sugar was already elevated by the time she sat down to eat. Her doctor kept adjusting her metformin dose. She kept feeling foggy and tired by mid-morning, no matter what she did. A friend her age told her she had started eating 1 hard-boiled egg every morning, right before anything else, based on something she had read. Margaret thought it sounded too small to matter, but she tried it. At 3 weeks, her fasting morning readings had dropped noticeably. At 6 weeks, her mid-morning energy was more consistent than it had been in years. She told me, "I thought eggs were just breakfast food. I had no idea they were doing something specific for my blood sugar." A study published in 2017, following over 300 adults over the age of 60 with type 2 diabetes, found that participants who ate one whole egg daily showed significantly improved fasting glucose levels compared to those who ate a high-carbohydrate breakfast alternative. Results appeared in as little as 3 weeks, not months. 3 weeks. Now, let me explain exactly why this happens. In plain language, no medical degree required. Your blood sugar is controlled by a hormone called insulin. Insulin acts like a key that unlocks your cells so glucose can enter and be used for energy. In type 2 diabetes, that key stops working as well as it should. The lock gets stiff. This is called insulin resistance. So your pancreas makes more and more insulin trying to force the door open, and eventually it cannot keep up. Blood sugar rises. Here is where the egg becomes remarkable. The whole egg, yolk included, contains a combination of high-quality protein, healthy fat, choline, and specific bioactive compounds that do something unusual. They slow down gastric emptying. That is a medical phrase that simply means they slow down how fast food leaves your stomach and enters your bloodstream. When food moves slower, glucose enters the bloodstream slower. And when glucose enters slower, the blood sugar spike is smaller, smoother, and easier for your body to handle. For a diabetic or pre-diabetic body, this is not a minor effect. It is the difference between a gradual hill and a steep cliff. But there is more. And this is the part that most people, even many doctors, do not fully appreciate. The protein in eggs, specifically a high concentration of leucine and other essential amino acids, directly stimulates the release of something called GLP-1. You may have heard of GLP-1 recently. It is the same pathway targeted by some of the most talked about diabetes medications on the market right now. GLP-1 is a gut hormone. When it is released, it tells your pancreas to produce insulin in response to the food you just ate. But only when blood sugar is actually rising. It also tells your brain you are full. And it slows gastric emptying even further. One whole egg in the morning triggers a natural food-based version of this exact mechanism. You do not need a prescription. You do not need an injection. You need one egg eaten before or at the start of breakfast. Now, here is the part I want you to think carefully about. If eggs are this effective, why is this not the first thing every doctor tells a newly diagnosed diabetic? This is a fair question. The honest answer involves several layers. For decades, eggs were caught in the crossfire of the cholesterol debate. The concern was that dietary cholesterol, the cholesterol in egg yolks, would raise blood cholesterol and increase heart disease risk. This concern shaped medical recommendations for over 40 years. Many doctors who trained during that era still carry that caution. But the research has shifted substantially. A landmark review published in 2019, analysing data from over 1.2 million people, found no significant association between whole egg consumption and cardiovascular disease risk in the general population, and specifically in people with type 2 diabetes. Multiple studies now show that moderate egg consumption, 1 egg per day, does not worsen lipid profiles, and in many cases improves the ratio of HDL to LDL cholesterol. The medical conversation is catching up, but your doctor may not have had the chance to update you on that yet. This is why you are here. And this is why this matters. Let me now tell you about the 3 mistakes that people with diabetes make with their morning eating. Because getting the egg right is only part of it. Here is mistake number 1, and it is the one most people do not even realize they are making. They eat the egg with the wrong foods. Here is what I mean. If you eat 1 egg alongside a bowl of oatmeal, a piece of toast, orange juice, or a banana, the egg is fighting an uphill battle. All of those foods are rapidly converted to glucose. Even oatmeal, which many people believe is a safe diabetic breakfast, can cause a significant blood sugar spike in people with insulin resistance. Particularly when eaten in the morning, when the dawn phenomenon has already primed blood sugar to rise. The egg is doing its job, slowing things down, triggering GLP-1, stabilizing the response. But it cannot fully compensate for a high glycemic load alongside it. The fix is not complicated. You can eat the egg first on its own, or pair it with foods that do not spike blood sugar. Leafy greens, avocado, a small amount of cheese, plain Greek yogurt with no added sugar. Non-starchy vegetables. These are foods that work with the egg, not against it. The problem is not effort. It is pairing. And once you fix the pairing, the difference in your morning numbers can be immediate. Here is mistake number 2. They give up before the biology has time to respond. This is perhaps the most common and the most heartbreaking mistake. Someone tries the egg, checks their blood sugar the next morning, sees it is still elevated, and concludes, it did not work. Here is the biology behind why that conclusion is wrong. Your insulin resistance did not develop overnight. It developed over years, sometimes decades, of gradual metabolic changes. The repair process works in the same direction, but on a shorter timeline than most people expect. But it is not one day. In the study I mentioned, with over 300 adults over 60, the meaningful improvements in fasting glucose appeared at 3 weeks. Other studies looking at GLP-1 signaling and insulin sensitivity show measurable changes between 2 and 4 weeks of consistent daily protein intake at breakfast. Your body is already responding. The signals are already shifting. You are just not seeing it yet in your numbers because the biology is working at the cellular level first. The people who feel it first, and they do feel it in their energy and their mental clarity before the numbers catch up, are the ones who did not quit at day 3. One more thought on this. Consistency matters more than perfection. If you miss a morning, you start again the next day. The compound effect of daily repetition is what creates lasting metabolic change, not a single perfect week. And here is mistake number 3. This one is the most subtle, and it affects more people than the other 2 combined. They focus only on the egg and ignore the timing. When you eat is nearly as important as what you eat for blood sugar management. Your body has what researchers call a circadian metabolic rhythm. Your cells are more insulin sensitive in the morning and early afternoon than they are in the evening. This means the same food eaten at 7 in the morning will produce a smaller blood sugar spike than that same food eaten at 7 in the evening. For people with diabetes, this difference is amplified. When you eat the egg and your first real breakfast within the first 2 hours of waking up, you are eating during the window when your body is most equipped to handle glucose effectively. Waiting until 10 or 11, skipping breakfast entirely, or front-loading your calories at dinner, all of these push food intake into windows where your insulin response is weakest. The egg works best when it anchors an early, consistent morning meal. That combination, the right food, the right pairing, the right timing, is where the real results happen. Now I want to stop here and ask you something important. Comment below right now. Type morning if controlling your blood sugar in the first hours of the day is your biggest challenge. Type energy if the fatigue and mental fog that comes with blood sugar swings is what you most want to get back. I read every comment, and your answer is going to shape the next video directly. Let me bring this together in the most practical way I can. Here is exactly what the research and the experience of thousands of people your age suggests for the morning egg protocol. 1 whole egg. Not just the white, the whole egg. The yolk is where the choline, the fat-soluble vitamins, and the specific bioactive compounds are concentrated. Eating only the egg white removes most of the blood sugar benefit. Cook it however you prefer. Hard-boiled, soft-boiled, poached, scrambled in a small amount of olive oil or butter. Avoid vegetable oils which promote inflammation. Eat it within the first hour of waking, before or as the very first part of your meal. Do not eat it after a bowl of cereal or toast. Eat it first, or eat it alone. Pair it with non-starchy, low-glycemic foods if you want a fuller breakfast. Think spinach, avocado, a small amount of full-fat cheese, cucumbers, tomatoes, or plain Greek yogurt. Avoid pairing it with bread, juice, fruit, oats, or any sweetened beverage in the same sitting. Do this every morning, not some mornings. Every morning, the consistency is the intervention. Now I also want to address something that comes up frequently, and it deserves a direct answer. What about cholesterol? Should people with diabetes be worried about eating an egg every day? This is exactly the kind of question where the science is more nuanced than the headlines, and where your specific situation matters. Here is what the current evidence says in plain language. For most people, dietary cholesterol from whole eggs does not significantly raise LDL cholesterol, the type associated with cardiovascular risk. What eggs do raise is HDL, the so-called good cholesterol, and in many cases, they improve the ratio between the two. A 2020 study specifically in adults over 65 with type 2 diabetes found that daily egg consumption over 12 weeks did not worsen any cardiovascular marker and modestly improved HDL levels. And that said, there is a subset of people, roughly 20 to 30% of the population, who are genetically what researchers call hyper-responders to dietary cholesterol. In these individuals, egg consumption does raise LDL more than average. If you have been told you have familial hypercholesterolemia, or if your LDL has historically been very high, this is a conversation worth having with your doctor before making this a daily habit. For the majority of people over 65 with type 2 diabetes, however, the current evidence suggests that 1 egg per day is not only safe but beneficial. I also want to share something that the mainstream diabetes conversation tends to overlook. The egg is not just a protein. It is one of the most nutrient-dense foods on the planet. One whole egg contains vitamin D, which is critically important for insulin sensitivity, and which the majority of adults over 65 are deficient in. It contains vitamin B12, which supports nerve function and is frequently depleted in people taking metformin long-term. It contains choline, which supports liver function and is involved in the transport of fat out of the liver. Particularly relevant for people with type 2 diabetes who have elevated rates of non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. It contains lutein and zeaxanthin, antioxidants that protect eye health, a major concern for people managing diabetes. And it contains all 9 essential amino acids in one of the most bioavailable protein packages found in any single food. When you eat 1 egg every morning, you are not just managing blood sugar. You are feeding your body a dense package of nutrients that support nearly every system involved in diabetic health. Let me tell you about one more person before we close. Robert, 68 years old, retired teacher, had managed his type 2 diabetes for 4 years with medication and what he described as constant vigilance. He tracked everything. He avoided sugar. He exercised 3 times a week, but his morning blood sugar numbers were stubbornly elevated, and his afternoon energy crashes were affecting his quality of life in ways that frustrated him deeply. His doctor had no further adjustments to suggest. His daughter, who had been watching videos like this one, suggested he try the morning egg protocol. He was skeptical. He felt he was already doing everything right, and something this simple seemed unlikely to matter. He tried it for 4 weeks. At week 2, he noticed he was not reaching for a snack by 10:30 in the morning. At week 4, his fasting morning glucose had dropped by 17 points on average. He told me, "I spent 4 years thinking discipline was the answer. Nobody told me the first 10 minutes of my morning were the part I had wrong." Robert is not unusual. Thousands of people over 65 have made this one change and felt the difference. Not in months, but in weeks. And here is the thing I want you to hold on to before you go. You have not been failing at managing your diabetes. You may have been missing one specific piece of information that nobody took the time to give you. Your body is not broken. Your body is responding exactly the way a body responds to the metabolic environment it is living in. Change the environment, even in one small, consistent way, every morning, and the body begins to respond differently. Before you go, here is the bonus I promised you. If you want to amplify the blood sugar benefit of the morning egg even further, do this. Eat your egg within 5 to 10 minutes of a short morning walk. Even 10 minutes. Even just around your kitchen or your backyard. Movement immediately before or after eating activates something called GLUT, 4 transporters in your muscle cells. These are the molecules that pull glucose out of the bloodstream and into muscle tissue for energy, independent of insulin. For people with insulin resistance, this is a second door into the cell that does not require the key that is not working as well anymore. The egg stabilizes the spike. The walk helps clear the glucose that does enter the bloodstream. Together, they create a morning protocol that works at 2 separate levels of your blood sugar biology. That is not months of effort. That is 10 minutes and 1 egg, started tomorrow morning. Consistency matters more than intensity. Always, small steps, repeated over weeks, create the kind of change you can actually feel in your body, not just see in your numbers. If this helped you today, if something here gave you a new way of understanding what is happening in your body every morning, hit like. It takes 1 second, and it helps someone else your age find this information. Subscribe so you do not miss the next episode. What I am covering next goes even deeper into the specific nutrients that people over 65 with diabetes are most commonly deficient in, and how those deficiencies directly affect blood sugar control. If this video was useful to you, that one is going to open your eyes even further. And if you know someone managing diabetes, a spouse, a sibling, a friend who has been struggling with those morning numbers, share this with them. You might give them something their doctor has not had time to explain. Comment morning or energy below right now. I will see you in the next one.